Alright, so I'm back again with another video, and today we're going to play Standard again, and we're going to try a completely colorless deck. So, just all artifacts basically. There are currently a couple of colorless cards in Standard, which you can mutate, but we're not playing those. So I'll go through the deck quickly. We have 4 copies of Gingerbrute. We have ShadowSPEAR. We have Soul Guided Lantern, which is actually quite a main deckable card. It's great against a cycling deck. It's great against Lurrus decks, the Cat Oven decks, to name a few. We have Golden Egg, just as a 2-drop to cycle, maybe gain some life. We have 2 copies of Steel Overseer to get a little bit aggressive. We have 4 copies of Crystalline Giant, which is one of my favorites. And it gets a random counter every turn, a counter that you don't currently have on it. Sometimes you just play this and you get a 3/3 hexproof. Hexproof, I think, being the pivotal ability that you want. And it's just really good, and sometimes it can just close out a game on its own, surprisingly. We're also playing Shambling Suit. So its power is equal to the number of artifacts and enchantments we control. So we're mostly an artifact deck, minus Ugin, and our lands. So this basically, for every artifact we have on the battlefield, gets more power, so it can be really beefy. A nice combo with that card is Manifold Key with Shambling Suit. Sometimes you can get it to an 8/8, or an 8/3 I should say, or a 10/3, and then you can just use Manifold Key, make it unblockable, and swing for the win. So we do have a sideboard with this deck, because we're playing 4 copies of Karn the Great Creator. And with Karn, its -2 ability lets you wish for an artifact card from outside the game. So in this case, our sideboard. And so our sideboard includes a copy of Bag of Holding, Grafdigger's Cage, which is really great against the Winota decks, Manifold Key, as I just explained, another copy of ShadowSPHERE. We have a Springjaw Trap. So I've never wished for this card yet, but I might have to. A big problem with this deck is that it doesn't have any removal. So if the opponent lands a creature, it's most likely just sticking around, because there's really no colorless removal options. So I didn't really want to mainboard it, because it's 1 to play and then 4 mana to use its ability, which I think is a lot for 3 damage. So I just have the one in the sideboard, and we're just planning to kind of go underneath creature-based decks. We have a copy of the Ozolith, which is great with the Crystalline Giant. It's also great with Steel Overseer. So there's a few synergies there. So I do call this a colorless deck, but we actually do play a copy of Embercleave, and we also play a copy of Perhellion 2. So I am calling this a colorless deck, but these cards are in the sideboard, and they're really great artifacts, so I'm kind of making the exception for these cards. We also have Meteor Golem, we have Chamber Sentry, Stonecoil Serpent, God Pharaoh Statue, which is really great against control decks. Another copy of Golos, so we do run 2 copies of Golos in the main, and we have 1 in the sideboard. And surprisingly, we can use its activation ability because we play 3 copies of Chromatic Lantern. So that's something that may come up as well. We do play 2 copies of Ugin, which makes all our colorless spells cost 2 less to cast. Its -3 is also really good because, again, like I said, this deck doesn't really have a lot of great creature removal. So sometimes you might just have to use the -3 on a pesky creature. And this is basically the deck in a nutshell. And I'm not even playing any, well, all lands are colorless. I shouldn't say I'm not playing any colored lands, but I'm only playing lands that can tap for colorless mana. So really, Chromatic Lantern is our only way that we can get colored mana, as well as, actually, what I just said was a lie, Unknown Shores. We can actually pay into Unknown Shores for mana. So disregard what I just said. I guess technically that is a colored source. But yeah, otherwise we're just playing, all colorless lands just to kind of freak our opponent out. Labyrinth, as just a way again to deal with creatures, a really expensive way. Mobilize District, which is really our only man land. Interplanar Beacon, so when we do cast our Planeswalkers, we can gain a little bit of life. Emergent Zone, we can cast things as though they had flash. Although this deck is quite mana hungry, I don't know if this situation will necessarily come up, but it might. Cryptic Caves I found to be very good. Sometimes you do flood out and you just want to sack a land to draw a card. And Bonder's Enclave as well, which lets you draw a card if you have a creature with power 4 or greater. And a copy of Blast Zone. I do wish I had more copies of Blast Zone. I really don't want to craft more copies and waste my wild cards, but this deck could definitely do with 4 Blast Zones. Definitely a better land than Unknown Shores. And that's the deck in a nutshell. Alright, so let's take this colorless mono brown deck into the ladder and see how we do. Not really expecting to do very well. Honestly, I'd be happy with just one win. If we play 4 matches, just 1 win, 25% win rate, I'd be more than happy with that. So we're up against an opponent who has a companion, Obosh, which means they can only play odd converted mana cost cards in their deck. We are going first. Not a great hand, but I'm going to keep it. Just hope to draw something good off the top. Opponent is going to have a very aggressive deck, so most likely going to have to sacrifice Gingerbrute to gain some life. Also hoping we draw a Karn. That way we can incidentally gain a little bit of life. So opponent just mulliganed. Opponent also on the same sleeves as me. Okay, so we're just going to attack with Ginger Boy, because he does have haste. Alright, opponent attacks back for 1. I don't think this Soul Guided Lantern is going to be very good, so I'm just going to play it and cycle it on the opponent's end step. Okay. So opponent is playing a lot of 1-drops. So I'm really hoping to find Blast Zone. Blast Zone would be really good. Blast Zone would kill my own Gingerbrute, but I think getting a 3-for-1 is quite good. So we're just going to draw a card. Okay. And here we're going to leave Gingerbrute back to block a Scorch Spitter. Going to leave both Gingerbrutes back. So I did say we might end up sacrificing this for 3 life, but I'd rather get these creatures off the board. Can't trade with the champion because it does have first strike. Drawing a lot of lands here. So again, Cryptic Caves being quite a good land. If we flood, we can sacrifice it and draw another card. It looks like the opponent, I was gonna say it looks like they missed their 3rd land drop, but I guess they were just thinking. So if we double block this, we can kill it, but then they'll just get a token to replace it. So I'm actually not going to block. Okay, another Cryptic Caves. And not much else we can do, unfortunately. Probably just going to block and then sacrifice one of the Gingerbrutes. Again, the colorless deck not really having any good removal options is really biting us. So we're going to sacrifice this before damage. That way we don't lose the 5 and we still gain 3, and then we take 1. Okay, opponent's most likely going to find their 5th land drop here. Yep. So they are going to get to play Obosh next turn, and we're probably dead. Even if I draw Blast Zone now, it's unfortunate because they have Annex. They'll just make a bunch of Satyrs. Oh. Better late than never, I guess. Hopefully it gets first strike. That way we can block the Annex. Just making sure Auto Tapper doesn't tap both our Cryptic Caves, because we're probably going to end up sacrificing one of them. Opponent does have Shock, so they can shock the Ginger Brute, but we can sacrifice it in response. And we got Lifelink, which is not bad, I guess. And we're just going to pass the turn. I'm expecting to see this Ginger Brute get shocked to force me to sacrifice it. Oh, okay. So, opponent here is just going to lose the shock, because you can only use things with Light Up the Stage until your next turn. So, they should have just shocked me directly if they were planning to make this play. So we saved ourselves 2 damage at least. So Obosh, any damage dealt by an odd permanent, double that damage is dealt instead. So we're going to take 2 off these Scorchbitter activations, as well as additional damage off the actual attacks. So we're just going to block sack this, and we're going to kill a Spitter. Not really sure how we can win this game, honestly. It's going to be very tough. Golos is nice. And with Golos, I'm going to get the Blast Zone, because they do have a lot of 1-drops. And I'm just thinking, is there a better land that I can get? We can also get a Labyrinth, and we can start removing this from combat. That might actually be better, because now they only have 2 1-drops. I'm just going to go with the Labyrinth. I don't know if it's the right play, but it's the play that I've decided upon. Flying, not very useful. Maybe useful later to get a little bit evasive, but for now, we definitely have to block. So I'll block a Scorchbitter, and I think I have to trade with the Annex, because I really don't want to take double damage. So that would be 12 damage from the Annex. I just can't afford to take 12. So we're going to make blocks like this. They're probably going to play another Annex. Oh, called it. I was afraid of that, but now I'm a little bit happy that I did end up getting the Labyrinth. So a Labyrinth costs 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 to activate. So I will go ahead and sacrifice a Cryptic Caves to draw a card. Okay, so we're flooding here. We can cycle a Soul Guided Lantern here. See what we draw. And we'll tap manually just to make sure it doesn't tap our Labyrinth. Alright, Ugin. It's not bad. So hopefully we can get first strike here. We did get first strike. That's nice. Alright, so no attacks. Hoping for Vigilance next. That way we can also attack and block. I don't think I can afford to play Ugin here. I could play it and kill Obosh. And then this can favorably block Annex, which means I would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. Or they could kill Ugin. I could also just play Ugin and plus it to get another blocker. I think I like that play. If they have a 3 damage spell for my Mecha Godzilla / Crystalline Giant, I'm probably dead, so I'm just going to bank on the fact that they don't have one. Okay, it's a lot of damage. I'm definitely going to block Obosh and Annex. So haven't done the math. Hopefully I'm not dead, but I might be. Alright, we're at 2. We're alive. Could just get shocked out here. Okay, another Annex. So this makes all our colorless spells cost 2 less to cast. So we get to play a free Overseer. We will play a Shambling Suit. We need all the blockers we can get. We can still draw a card and still have mana up for Labyrinth. So let's do that. Okay. We're going to play Mobilize District, which we can actually also animate because we do have a legendary now, our legendary being Ugin. We will play the Lantern. The Lantern's basically free. We're going to tap a land regardless for one of these abilities, so what we're using to cast Lantern, we basically get back because Lantern taps for mana. I do think we need to kill Obosh here. Let's wait. Let's see what we get off the Mecha Godzilla. We got Menace. Was really hoping to get Vigilance. I think we're dead, honestly. I don't think there's any way we can survive this. I am going to kill the Obosh.
Begone, interloper.
And they just have way too many attackers. So because we have first strike, we'll gain the life before the rest of this damage. So let's remove this from combat. Block Annex. Block these 2 tokens, and I still think we're dead. Just triple Annex, we couldn't beat it. Alright, time for the next game. Hopefully we can clinch out at least 1 win. up against Marco. If my name was Polo, it would be pretty funny. Up against another Obosh deck. And opponent is going first. We do have a Blast Zone, which is pretty good in this matchup. So we're going to keep this hand. So I'm going to wait on Blast Zone. I'm only going to play it if I do need my 4th land drop, or when I plan to use it. Because if you play it too early, they might just play around it. Next turn we're going to go for the Mechagodzilla. So we do need blockers. Opponent with lots of 1-drops. Now they've seen our Blast Zone, so no use hiding it. Probably going to take the Mechagodzilla or Karn. Really depends what the last 2 cards in their hand are. Yep. Alright, that's fine. We still have a play. And hopefully they miss a land drop. Looks like they do. And if they attack with this Knight of the Ebon Legion, we can get them. Unless they have a combat trick. But we can block and then activate, making Steel Overseer a 2/2. So that's nice. Okay. Gonna lose our Karn. It's very unfortunate. But we drew another Karn, which is great. So I am gonna play Karn. And I get to wish for 1 card before it dies.
Stand down.
ShadowSPHERE might be quite good. Well, they're missing land drops, so I think maybe I just get God Pharaoh's Gift or God Pharaoh Statue, because we can actually play it next turn. And if they don't have any more plays to make, we can just kind of cheese them out of the game. Oh, they didn't even attack. So yeah, we're just gonna God Pharaoh Statue here. And
My allies are counting on me.
now I will get the ShadowSPHERE for some lifelink, or actually, well, we're in a very good position, honestly. We could get numerous things and probably still win. I'm just gonna get Perhelion. Make things a little bit fun. If opponent doesn't find more lands though, they're probably just gonna concede. I would as well, honestly. Another really cool trick with Karn is you can animate the God Pharaoh statue and attack with it. So 6 damage is nothing to scoff at. It's quite powerful. Didn't find more lands, unfortunately, for this Perhelion, but that's okay. Again, I don't think the opponent is going to win. They're just too far behind now. Yeah, and there we go. So we kind of cheesed them out because they didn't have land drops, but a win is a win, I guess. So let's try another one. Oh, we got a pack. And the other bad thing about this deck is if you have certain quests that require you to play colored spells, you're really not going to meet those quest requirements with this deck. So obviously don't play this deck if you're looking to, you know, grind quests. Hopefully we don't face another Obosh deck. Alright, so hope granted, no Obosh. We're up against the Prophet. And we'll keep this hand. It's not great, but it has a couple of plays. Okay, looks like we're up against mono red. Alright, this could be a Cavalcade deck. Haven't seen those decks in a while. Yep. Okay. Hopefully we find our third land drop. We have 2 draw steps to do so, because we're going to cycle this, plus we're going to get our draw step. Although if we do miss lands, I guess it's some sort of divine punishment for the last game, where my opponent missed lands. So, in essence, maybe we deserve it. Yeah, ShadowSPHERE, so definitely a Cavalcade deck. If they do play Cavalcade next turn, we're just dead. So hopefully we find a third land. I was going to say hopefully we find a third land and Mechagodzilla gains flying. But in this case I think we're just dead. Because again, this deck just has the problem of not having any removal. So they're just going to jam Cavalcade and just combo kill us with this ShadowSPHERE. Alright, so we dodged it. Okay, that's great. I really want to play Chromatic Lantern in case we don't draw a 5th land, and then use Golos. Maybe I'll just play Karn. So we have to fade the Cavalcade for a couple of turns. So even if we went with that other play, regardless, we have to fade it. So there's nothing really we can do.
You will not threaten this world.
Here I'm going to get Stonecoil Serpent because it actually has reach. Its protection from multicolor isn't very relevant, but because it has reach, we can at least block the Spitfire. And it looks like we're dead. So yeah, that play wouldn't have mattered. Yep, so here's the combo. And we die. Alright. Alright, let's try another one. Alright, on to the next match. Hopefully we're not against another Obosh deck. Really want to face some more diverse decks. So we get to go first. I think this hand is okay. Not up against any companions, so can't really make any assumptions. So let's see what land they play. Alright, mono red. So having ShadowSPHERE in this matchup is quite good. We'll get to suit up the Shambling Suit. Hopefully have it not die and get some attacks in, which will gain us some life thanks to ShadowSPHERE. So really hoping to dodge a removal spell here. So they could play a land and then shock this to finish it off, but I think that's a chance I'm willing to take. Okay, that's great. So I'm just gonna wait a turn on the ShadowSPHERE. I like getting the Shambling Suit to 4 toughness. That way they'll have to use multiple removal spells. Unless they have Lava Coil, of course, but... So I think we're favored to win this. Again, my opponent just missing too many land drops. Because we're going to gain 7 here. And we can also sacrifice this to gain 3, although it would make our Shambling Suit smaller. We do have that option. Okay, so we're taking quite a bit of damage here. Probably not going to sacrifice this egg. Not yet. I don't think we can die next turn, so I'm going to play the statue. And this is going to make it really hard for my opponent to win. Again, looking like the last game, where my opponent stumbled on lands and then we capitalized because we played a God Pharaoh statue. Excuse me. 3 mana Scorchspitter. So we can get this to 6 toughness. And then it'll trade with the Annex. But I don't want to trade quite yet. I don't mind giving them another token here. We are going to gain 9 life off this block. Alright. So let's play Ugin. Gain some life. And our opponent just scoops it up. I would scoop there too, honestly. So hopefully we can play some more interesting games. So far I really haven't found the games to be that interesting. Kind of unfortunate. What I consider to be an interesting game is more back and forth, a little bit more decision making. The games so far have been kind of linear. I've had very few decisions in my opinion. Alright, so we're up against a Gyruda deck. So we will keep this. And we're looking for Karn, so we can wish for a Grafdigger's Cage. So next turn, I'm probably going to play the Lantern. That way, if we do draw Karn, we can immediately wish for the cage, and then play the cage. Because on the end step here, they could Growth Spiral, and then play a land. And then on their turn, they play a land. And then we're kind of behind at that point. We do need to land a Grafdigger's Cage as soon as possible. Okay, cycling is good. I did not want to see Growth Spiral, as just mentioned, so glad I did not see that. The faster they can ramp, the worse it is for us. Alright, so assuming they hit a land drop, next turn they are going to Gyruda us, and we're going to be in big trouble. So here I'm just going to play a Mecha Godzilla, start getting some random counters. So we got Hexproof. So that's pretty cool. Not that these decks really play anything that is going to be able to deal with my creature. They'll just go bigger than me, basically. They did miss a land drop, so we have another chance here to find a Karn. Unfortunately, we did not. Let's just play another Mecha Godzilla. Hoping to get First Strike and Death Touch with this now. That way we can block the Questing Beast favorably. So we got Vigilance, and we got First Strike. Yeah, alternatively, if they both get First Strike, we can double block the Questing Beast. That would be pretty cool. And we're just going to play a big blocker. And probably just trade with the Questing Beast regardless. And they found their land, so here comes the Gyruda combo. Unfortunately, we couldn't find Karn in time. They could whiff here, and if they whiff and then we draw Karn, or they just play Gyruda. Okay. So they're dealing with the Mecha Godzilla before it gets hexproof. And I did say that they don't have many things to deal with my creatures, but I was mistaken, obviously. Definitely gonna block here. They probably just have another Questing Beast. Okay, we got another Mecha Godzilla. So we have 6 mana. I'm actually going to start off with a Golden Egg, just to see what we draw. Okay. And I'm just going to Golos here. Because we have Chromatic Lanterns, we can start using Golos' ability. And maybe just get a Mobilized District. Not sure how useful it's going to be. So we got Hexproof, Vigilance, and Lifelink. We still don't have good attacks, unfortunately. So maybe they're scared of playing Gyruda because we have a Soul-Guided Lantern. But I believe this card gets around the Soul-Guided Lantern. So maybe the opponent doesn't know that. And that's why they're not playing their Gyruda. Man, this has such a good relevant ability against us. Whenever it attacks, destroy an artifact or enchantment against the artifact and enchantment deck. Hopefully we can find... I was going to say Karn before they play this Gyruda, but it doesn't look like it. And they hit an Acolyte. And an Enrace Forerunners. Well, if they had done that first, we would have been in a lot more trouble. So here, we can remove one of these creatures from combat. I don't think it matters. I think we're dead. Fortunately, I think we're dead. And we got Reach. And we got Hexproof again. So at least this Kolga can't deal with our Mecha Godzillas. And we're just going to stay on defense. They have another Forerunners. So we're just dead. No math necessary. We're definitely just dead. We get to draw a card. We get to gain some life. And all these creatures have trample, so we're definitely dead. Doesn't really matter how we block. Alright, good game opponent. Good game. Alright, so I'm just going to play one more with this deck. And this will be my last game with this deck. And let's see how we fare. We're up against Happenstance. And we're going first. We're up against the Lurrus deck. So if we can find a Soul Guide Lantern, it would be nice. Definitely going to keep this hand. It could also be a cycling deck. Cycling deck plays Lurrus quite a bit. Probably a cycling deck now that I've seen planes. Yep. So next turn we're going to play the Mecha Godzilla and start getting some counters. Maybe get Death Touch to be able to block this, because it's going to get really large. Alright, we found the Lantern, so that's good. And we got a +1/+1 counter. So that's also really good. Although I'm probably still not blocking the Fox. Well, now I am. Because if they had a lot of 1-mana cyclers, they would have just traded. So they're going quite wide. We really need to find lifelink on this. We'll block the Fox because we don't really care if they gain a life when they cycle. We're not too concerned about that. Whereas this can get really big. A lot bigger than our Mecha Godzilla. And if we don't get the right counters, we won't be able to block that. Or trade with it favorably, I should say. I'm just going to run out some more blockers here. See what counter we get. Oh, we got flying. We're still going to hold the fort until we stabilize a little bit better. Next turn we can Golos. We don't have to worry about Zenith Flare anymore because we have Lantern. So we just have to get around them going wide with all these creatures. And we're probably going to play Golos and get Blast Zone. Blast Zone on 2 would be good. Don't really want to do it on 1 because then it'll kill our Lantern. But we do have another Lantern as well, so we'll see what happens in the later turns. Opponent probably not going to attack here. I wouldn't if I were them. They don't really have great attacks. Alright, well, I don't understand this attack. We're only taking 1 here. Okay, we found another Lantern. So we're definitely protected against Zenith Flare. There's no doubt about that. And I'm probably just going to get a Labyrinth now. Actually, no, Blast Zone is probably still better. Let's hope we get Vigilance. That way we can start applying some pressure. Ah, there we go, Vigilance. Ask and you shall receive. So Mr. Happy Stance is probably a little bit sad stance at the moment. Yeah, this Flourishing Fox getting kind of out of control. Yeah, no, it's getting very out of control. So we will probably use the Blast Zone just for the Fox. Obviously activating the Lantern before we activate the Blast Zone. That way we can exile their graveyard, be safe against the Zenith Flare. Yeah, so well, actually, I don't mind just double blocking the Fox. That's probably better, and we can save our Blast Zone for something else later. So I feel like we're very heavily favored to win. Yeah. Oh, let's see what counter we get. Menace. Yeah, I like racing. They're only doing 1 damage a turn. And I'm just gonna sacrifice this now. And play another Lantern. And Lantern forces you to sacrifice, or to exile from a graveyard, I should say. So because the opponent's graveyard was empty, we had to exile from our own graveyard. Which is fine. We don't really have graveyard recursion in this deck. Really hoping this gets lifelink next turn. Probably going to take up this Blast Zone to 2. And going to gain 3 life as well. Because Blast Zone will be sitting at 2, we might as well just sacrifice the golden egg. Oh, Karn is great. So I think the play here is Karn.
I am Karn.
Karn will get... honestly, just ShadowSPHERE. It's more life gain, so it's going to win a sustain. So, definitely going to attack. It has Vigilance, so, you know, we can attack and keep it back as a blocker. Essentially, it's a free attack. There's really no point holding it back there. Opponent can cast a Zenith Flare for 2. Actually for 0, because the moment we see it, we can exile their graveyard, so... Yep. Alright, perfect. We beat the cycling deck. And they didn't stumble. They made some irregular attacks, but we did win, so that was nice. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Hopefully I'll keep continuing improving my videos. Alright, bye.